I'm Lindsay Heck, and this is Ways to Flourish. Okay, so here we are for our very first episode of Ways to Flourish is really our purpose here. And we're really looking forward today to diving in with Dr. Kelly Crace and one of our wellness ambassadors, Rossert. And today we're going to talk about stress versus strength. So what is this?
Thanks, Lindsay. And Maz, it's really interesting having this conversation because probably over this past year, the most common question that I have received from students, from faculty and staff is, how do I flourish through chronic uncertainty, anxiety, and upset, which has been so much of a part of this entire year for so many different reasons that we've all talked a lot about. And what it reminds me of every time is the difference between 2019 and 2020, and it's really the difference between stress and strain. The truth is our campus is no stranger to stress. In our normal academic season, we have staff and faculty and students that step into stress every day. And it's stress that's related to things that are important to them. That's the wonderful thing about stress. Stress is a healthy thing because it's a function of things that are important to us. Now, we add our expectations to that stress, either healthy or unhealthy. But whenever we move from this place of kind of rhythmic stress, the great thing about the typical academic year is there's a little bit of predictability about when our stress times are going to be and when our hyper-stress times are going to be, but also when our restorative opportunities are going to be. And when that is disrupted, there's a vulnerability of that moving from stress to strain. And that's what 2020 has been, is our predictability of what is fearful, of what is fatiguing, of what is frustrating, has been less solid. And our restorative opportunities have been deeply disrupted. Whenever that starts to move into a place of strain, what we're basically saying is we're not sure we have the endurance to make it through what we perceive the demands and expectations to be around us. And that's certainly typical of this year. Well, what do we do with that? I mean, how do we flourish through strain? We know strain is unsustainable. We can't hold it for a long term. And so we must do something, and especially in times when we can't control the world around us. Every day we're experiencing something both evocative and provocative. No one is going through this year neutrally. Every day we have some emotional charge and some kind of uncertainty that challenges us that we can't necessarily fix. How do we flourish through that? And the secret to that is to look at a thing that we're vulnerable to drift in, is whenever we're under strain, we are vulnerable to drifting into the need for relief. And so we start looking for relief, which also starts to give great power to our emotions of the day, to our mood of the day, our emotions of the day, our response and our reactions. And what can happen is we start to define the quality of our day and even the quality by the prominent emotions of the day. How was today? It was a bad day. I felt sad. It was a bad day. I felt afraid. It was a bad day. I was hurt by what was going on. And it can even become personalized, where the quality of ourselves is defined by our mood. But that compels us to start looking for relief. And we tend to start looking through soothing or through demanding the world to change. So moods and emotions are wonderful things. We need them in our lives. Sometimes it's the first level of awareness. And it's also connected to things that are important to us. We don't have any emotions about things that are unimportant to us. So we're reacting and responding to things that matter. Our emotions matter. And for us to flourish, something has to matter more than just our emotions. And what happens is we're vulnerable under strain, where mood and emotion comes to the foreground and meaning and purpose goes to the background. And we essentially have to switch that. For us to flourish through strain, and to move out of strain, we have to very intentionally and mindfully bring meaning and purpose to the foreground and let our emotions be just right behind it, not eclipsed by it. They need to be there too. But we have to start defining the quality of our day and the quality of ourselves by us stepping into purpose each day. So it essentially means kind of three things, three steps. If you want to know practically how to do it, if we can all practically every day practice three steps, and that is first, to start every day with what do I believe is right and important for me to engage in today? What do I want to do? But what do I believe is right for me to do? Even if we see it as a have to. There's a difference between saying, I have to work on this paper that's due at noon. Well, it may be due at noon. But if you just say, it is right for me to work on this paper at noon, that makes a difference in our brain. It moves us from resentment. It moves us from resentment to resilience. And so starting with purpose and going with what is important in our lives starts to move us into a greater sense of purpose and meaning. And then in the middle of the day, there needs to be a time where you think of healthy self-care. At some point in time, step into a thought of what would be healthy for me to do today and step into it. The most important step, though, is the third step. And that's at the end of the day, taking a moment and reflecting and appreciating and valuing where I engaged in those important things, where I stepped into that. The magical thing about that, the powerful thing about that third step, which is, by the way, the most neglected step. We tend to almost never do this. But that third step actually transforms purpose into meaning. A lot of people think purpose and meaning are the same thing, but purpose is more motivational, meaning is more reflective. So if at the end of the day we will reflect and appreciate where we courageously stepped into purpose, it transforms purpose into meaning. And what we find is when people live a meaningful life, they can withstand tremendous hardship, tremendous stress, tremendous hurt. They're still affected. They're affected by it. But it ends with, how was your day? Today was a good, disappointing because this happened and this happened. It was frustrating because this happened and this happened. But their worth is defined by stepping into purpose. Maz and I have had these conversations before as a wellness ambassador about how hard that is, especially with Maz's background as an international student and a transfer student, and a graduating senior in December, which is just odd in and of itself, unless there's any way I can sabotage your graduation, which is I'm trying to do at every level. But do you mind speaking to kind of how you have seen this in action in your life and how it's relevant for you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's several, but one, I think I'm going to speak to what's most relevant to me right now. I have a midterm due tonight that I really don't want to take, and I've had this conversation with you before in the past of midterms I didn't want to take, and sort of you asking me, well, why are you taking it then? Because this language that I used to sort of engage in is more of, well, I have to take this midterm, but I'm choosing to take this midterm. And so I have to sort of tap into why is it that I'm taking this midterm? And as you mentioned, I'm graduating soon. So for me right now, it's I want to graduate, and part of doing this midterm is going to help me get to that point. And so I value getting to the point of finishing my degree. And in order to do so, I need to take this midterm. So it becomes less about bullying myself into making sure I get an A on this midterm, and more just about doing the midterm so that I can get A grade to graduate.
That's great.
Yeah. Another example that comes to mind, which is a little bit more of a personal condition that means that I'm in chronic pain every single day. So I have to navigate that on a daily basis. And the emotions that are associated with that chronic pain can very much dampen the mood of the day. So I have to be really intentional about tapping into a meaningful start to my day. And it's through trial and error that I've realized that it's at the start of my day that this is the most meaningful way to navigate and manage my chronic pain. So for me, at the moment, meditating and doing some therapeutic movement in the morning and trying to spend time around animals has been the most helpful thing to, at the end of the day, when I feel that I have been in pain all day and it's been affecting me, I can still tap into, and I was able to spend time with a meaningful animal in my life or spend time with a friend today. And I was able to meditate and ground myself first thing in the morning.
What I loved about what you shared there, Maz, thank you for that, is you were able to share something that's very collective and normal for academic demands. And I think all of us as students, faculty, and staff have somewhat of a collective and shared anxiety, a shared uncertainty about what's going on in our world right now. And so we can support each other through that. but you're providing a very helpful reminder that everybody also is an individual and has very unique situations that they're managing.
Yeah.
And so while everyone has the stress of academics, not everyone has the stress of academics and a chronic health condition, or has a particular identity that is marginalized in our culture. It's all very different, and it's important for us to see individually itself in my world and how does it interact in my world. And that's why I think purpose and meaning over mood are so critical, because that's what gives us our agency. No matter what I'm faced with in my world, I always have the agency to act on what's important to me. The critical part is for us to give it its importance. For us to give it that value and worth, which I think you've done a marvelous job. And it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
It's really hard.
It's a challenge, and the thing we always talk about is it is hard, and it's only hard, and you're worth that hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so having the opportunity to really hope the podcast will be about is stepping into the multiple hards that we face, and what are some practical strategies to help us move forward and flourish in it. And I just appreciate, Lindsay, you and Brittany and Eric bringing this to us so we can have multiple voices, both the professional voices and the campus voices, to help us understand.
Up in the morning and I say, I'm going to have a good day. I'm going about it the complete wrong way, aren't I now? I've got it all backwards to some degree, huh?
Not necessarily, because I know you, and I know what a good day means to you is you stepping into something that's purposeful and meaningful, because that's how I see you act every day. So it's your voice and your narrative how I see you act every day. So it's your voice and your narrative, however that looks. It's just, if you're saying, I'm going to have a good day and I'm going to chase this mood, I'm going to chase this emotion, I'm going to chase happiness, I'm going to chase calm, that's where a good day goes awry. But I'm going to have a good day because I'm going to step into purpose, then you're going to have a good day.
Thank you so much, Maz and Kelly, for being part of this. Anything else to share?
Be well.
Be well.